these imaginal cells work a lot like stem cells, where they're here to serve a purpose, they're here for the highest good of the organism, and yet they don't know what they're to do yet. It's kind of like who we are, right? On the planet, we don't know what we're to do yet with purpose. So these imaginal cells then begin to find each other inside the chrysalis, and they begin to form. Now, the rest of the green goo is trying to annihilate that. Its immune system is saying, wait a minute, well, we were this. And yet the imaginal cells continue to find each other and then go, oh, we're already encoded. We know who we are. We know what we're to do. We've got this. And the imaginal cells then begin to rebuild the organelles into the organs, into the systems, into the structures, so that from a very unknown cell that doesn't know what it is, the encoding is innate and inside, and the potential's always there. And then they become the butterfly. So as a human species, we're going through that same thing, right? Like, what's going on the planet? Why is everything breaking down? I don't understand. And literally, we're in that imaginal cell stage.
Hi, my name is Zenka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet, and my passion and purpose is to make the impossible possible. We are here today with someone who knew their purpose from a very young age, which we've noticed as a pattern among the people we have interviewed. Dr. Julie Krull is a catalyst for unity consciousness across the world. She is founder of Good of the Whole and host of the Dr. Julie Show, All Things Connected. She has a PhD in counseling psychology and has decades of research into integrative health and wellness. And she is on a mission to heal the illusion of separation and bring unity consciousness to the world. Her book, Fractured Grace: How to Create Beauty, Peace, and Healing for Yourself and the World, offers a roadmap for living with purpose, grace, and a deep connection to the whole. Through her teaching, writing, and leadership, Dr. Julie Krull activates the heart of wholeness in individuals and communities around the world.
Well, I discovered my purpose when I was 11 years old, which is kind of rare. Like, most people don't discover their purpose when they're 11 years old. But I had a near-death experience when I was 4 years old. And so I kind of maintained this relationship with other realms during my childhood. And at 11 years old, I was seeing things that were breaking my heart and feeling things that were breaking my heart, and watching the news, watching starving children in Africa, let alone a lot of domestic things that were happening in my family system. And one day I had this experience. I was done. I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't get humans. I don't understand humans. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this thing. I don't understand pain and suffering on the planet. And so at 11 years old, I went out on the grass having this conversation with God, and sat there and had a transpersonal experience that took me off the planet. And I got to see the future in that moment. I got to see my role. I got to see my purpose. And at that point, I knew that I was here to help evolve consciousness on the planet. I was a very precocious little girl at 11, so I really was attuned to the other realms during childhood and not this world. So it was really hard to live in this world. And at that time, I just got to see that there's a plan. Amazing changes are coming. There's a transformation happening, and let's do it consciously. So at that moment, I knew I'd be a part of the conscious evolution on the planet, and literally saw how it would happen in its different seasons and cycles of that. So that's where it all began. It's when I was a little girl. So I also knew it was in my 50s, like, okay, go do life. And in your 50s, this will be a big, important piece for you. So That's how it all began. What I experienced as a child was this, the effects of separation on our planet, the effects of understanding this worldview of separation, where we were separate from each other, we were separate from the planet, we were separate from the cosmos, and in separation there was so much pain and suffering on all fronts. So not only just economic or with the environment or what's happening with the starving children in Africa, but as I was seeing this vision, part of it was showing all the different systems and structures that were breaking down because we believed that we were separating, we were disconnecting, we were fragmenting. And it was all about consciousness and a worldview. And so after that, as a child, I saw unity. I was living it from 4 to 11. Like I was not really grounded in this body, didn't want to be here. But I could sense into the different realms. And so after that, I just left there with a sense of confidence in my knowing. It was like this affirmation from the universe that says, okay, here we go. And the world that I was shown of really healing consciousness on the planet, healing our worldview, changing our belief in separation into the unitive, true nature of our reality, was something that was not easy as a child or a young adult or moving on, because it wasn't the world that I was living in. And yet I could see it happening in small ways, and I could see the movement, I could see the light, and I could see different things shifting. And so what I was shown with the planet was a lot more in alignment with the other realms of just love being, of the unitive nature of reality, where we're all of one consciousness. My friend Jude Curvan always says, we don't have consciousness. We in the whole world are consciousness. And when you think like that, and you understand consciousness moving in and out of form and how it's all one, it's a very different worldview that changes behavior, changes relationships, changes everything. So the peace, the harmony, all the things that people dream about from different religious traditions and what have you are really a real thing. Like, it's real. It's not this utopian fantasy, and it's not an ideal. Unity is not an ideal. It's real. Like, it's the true nature of our reality. So people getting along, people sharing, people loving, people not in competition, but cooperation, all of that is not just an ideal. It's a very real thing we're moving towards. So the one thing that I think is really essential in it is the evolution of consciousness itself. And when we understand that we're born into a human form, and it's very developmental, just like our education. Like, we go through different levels of education, we learn, and we don't learn physics in kindergarten. Well, we're born into levels of consciousness, and we evolve and we expand, like the aperture of a lens, so we can see more of that cosmic perspective as we develop and mature in consciousness. And some people like labeled those different levels of development. There's a lot of theory about that, but I know it to be real and to be true, that when the aperture of the lens is here, we see a myopic worldview that's very scary, very dominated with fear and separation. And the more the aperture of the lens opens, the more we can see the unitive functions that are really benevolent and loving and good and kind on the planet. Yeah, so fast forwarding of how purpose lands in an embodied sense for me on the planet was, here I am going through life, 20s, 30s, having children, having a career as a psychotherapist. And then I'm in my 50s. And I'm like, okay, got to do the world work now. Like, it's time for the global. Where is it? Who's my team? Where am I at? And I lived in the middle of the United States in a small little town and didn't know anybody on my team. I knew that there had to be people out there, but didn't know anyone. And at that time, true story, which isn't unusual for me. But the true story was, we had done some remodeling in our home, and I had moved a stack of DVDs and put them in a room as we were moving, and they were all stacked and sitting by a door. And I walked by one day, and a video fell off and hit my leg, and I picked it up, put it back on there, and walked by. I've walked by that stack so many times. So a little bit later, I walked by again, and it slides off and hits my leg again. It didn't just fall on the floor, it hits my leg. I'm like, what is this? And I pick it up, and there's 2 DVDs by Barbara Marx Hubbard. And I have no idea where they came from. I don't have any recollection of buying them or purchasing them or ordering them. They still had the cellophane around them. They were just there, and there they were. And I'm like, okay, sign from the universe, put in this DVD. And I was enamored with Barbara's vision. I was enamored with Barbara Marx Hubbard's work and the work of conscious evolution. And the one story she tells in there of this cosmic perspective of her vision was almost precisely the same vision I had when I was 11. So the thing that she talked about that was really beautiful was seeing the earth and just breathing when she was out in outer space, and seeing that. I sat there with the earth in my hands like this, with a guide with me, and we were watching consciousness and the evolution as these movies were going on. But you could tell it was a living organism. And I've never heard anyone say, the earth is breathing. And from that moment on, I'm like, who is this woman? I hadn't even heard of her at that point. Like, I didn't know who Barbara Marx Hubbard was. And so at that point, I literally began studying with her, went through a year's mentorship with her, and had a really nice, beautiful relationship with her, but just learned from her and from those who she had near her. Some of her most amazing friends have been mentors of me, that Catherine and Mikasha Roski and Carolyn Anderson. It just is this really beautiful team of people who are there to just support this evolution on the planet. So yeah, met Barbara, and then slowly I began to weave those relationships and the mentors. There were 40 of us working together, and at the same time started a podcast, and was just attracting the same kinds of thinkers, and it all purpose was ignited, and I couldn't go back. And if ever it was, okay, where's my team? What do I do? It's like, oh yeah, just go back here, and then it's like everything's attracted in. The guidance is always just right there. It's alive. So when my purpose was ignited inside, there was a clear direction to be the voice of conscious evolution, or be a voice for conscious evolution. And again, it's like, how do you do that? Like, and especially in a world with a worldview of separation, ideology and belief, that there's so much separation. So how do we do that? And on the planet, social media is huge. The mainstream media, so there's so much noise going on. So how do we cut through that? When I tap into the consciousness and understand my purpose in being that voice, a lot of it has to be from a frequency place, to really tune into that unitive consciousness and to bring that message in as many ways as possible, through writing, through speaking, through teaching, through art, through media. And so as that voice that's here, a funny story again, universe, purpose. The universe wants us to follow the purpose, right? So here's another funny story. Purpose. I go to work one day, and as a psychotherapist, I go into my office, and there's a message on the answering machine. Dates me back a couple decades ago. We still had answering machines, not cell phones. So on my answering machine at work, there's this message from a producer from the Oprah Winfrey Network. And strange process. I'm like, they wanted me to be a guest on a show. They wanted me to be their guest expert that followed them along through every show. And at the time, I had been getting all of these messages like, we want you to start your own podcast. Emails. Start your own podcast. And I'm like, junk mail. And I was like delete. And all of a sudden, Oprah Winfrey Network's calling me. And I'm like, what is this? Pay attention. Like, seriously. So literally, those producers, we had a few calls, and they wanted me to work because of my work with resilience and what I was doing on the planet. Came out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Time to do some media. And at that time, another podcast invitation came in from a very reputable, amazing woman, and she's like, you're perfect, let's do this. And I'm like, scared to death. I've never done a podcast. It was a radio show at the time. It was terrestrial radio. It was live talk show. And I'm like, okay. And I found the perfect mentor to help me. And that was just attracted in. I didn't even look for it. I had this friend, and he was a producer, and he's like, I'm going to help you produce your show. You're going to be amazing. Let me help you get this all set up. And that was 10 and a half years ago, almost 11, going on 11 years now, of saying, okay, I'm scared to death and I don't know what to do. And everything was just perfect. The biggest struggle I've faced in following my purpose is probably loneliness and alienation. I live in a very conservative place with not a lot of people who are doing this work or understanding even what is consciousness. You know, they're just in it, doing their life, living a good life, living amazing good life. And yet my fellow teammates and cohorts were all over the planet, like everywhere else, you know, and on the two coasts and just in different places. And so finding my teammates, my coworkers, the people to collaborate with was a big process, but it still is. I choose to live where I live, and I love living where I live. And I think that will all start to change here really soon, because as people awaken and they're really ignited with their own purpose, they're getting it, and there's this natural attrition. I think that's another important piece for everyone to really understand on the planet is this big wake-up call is happening, but it's also this innate awakening that happens. So there's so many people out there with this urgent cry, hurry up, we got to wake people up, we got to get that. And it's like, it's happening inside all of us. It's happening inside this species. It's happening as a planetary species and as a part of a cosmic superorganism. So this consciousness and this expansion of that aperture of the lens is happening. And so learning to love, I think this is another challenge, learning to just love everyone where they're at and not feel isolated and alone and judging others as not being there or not being on our team. It's like, we're all one. We're all here. So just really learning to love everyone where they're at and just follow that inner North Star. I wouldn't say with 90% of people that haven't found their purpose, and the 5 that have, and the 5 that have really embodied and activated the 5%. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful gift. And those numbers also align with the development of our consciousness on the planet really, really well. So like those who really are in alignment with the divine intelligence, a designing intelligence of the universe, and really feeling purpose and calling, are really in alignment with the more unitive stages of consciousness. And so when I think of this, I don't think of it as something gone wrong, and yet it's the trajectory into separation consciousness has gotten really ugly and icky, and you know, it's causing a lot of heartache and suffering on our planet. And yet, as a species, those who are waking and living purpose are helping to ignite the frequency level of others. So like literally the consciousness, if we look at it as frequencies and what we know about physics, that when there's a higher frequency, a lower frequency leads to entrain with that, or it just goes away. And so those who are living purpose on the planet right now are doing an amazing service to the whole. Like, if you know your purpose, live it, engage, ignite, because that literally is helping others to entrain to purpose and to help raise awareness, raise consciousness on the planet. And so it looks sad. It looks like, wow, what are we doing wrong? If there's 90% of people on the planet that don't know their purpose, I would guess it's probably more than that. They know it, but they're anesthetized to it. Like our modern culture doesn't give us much room and space to breathe into purpose. And yet, as a species, we're also crawling into that chrysalis and becoming this new human species. And so a lot of it is a lostness, a no-thingness, like a disconnect from anything, because I don't even know who I am anymore, because the world around me is this living chrysalis that's really helping us evolve into the next stage of our butterfly stage of humanity, you know? And so when we look around, I think this is a message of hope with purpose as well, is that those who are in that space of looking around going, what's wrong with the world? Why is everything breaking down? I don't know who I am. I don't know where I belong. When you're in that stage and you can ask those questions, you can also really relate and resonate with this higher vibration that's calling us into that evolutionary stage as a species. So if you have that sense of purpose, live it. It's helping everyone else, like wake out of the chrysalis stage. If you don't know it, you may be in the chrysalis stage that doesn't know where you're at, why you're here, what's going on. And yet in a chrysalis, our evolution biologist friend Elizabeth Sahtouris reminds us that literally the caterpillar that builds a chrysalis literally dissolves into green goo of nothingness. And most people understand a chrysalis and the butterfly experience as, oh, the caterpillar goes in there and grows wings. No, they literally disintegrate into nothingness. No remnants of the original caterpillar survive. And imaginal cells come in and say, here's what you're going to be. Here's what you're going to be. So for those who are looking for purpose, remember that there's imaginal souls around on the planet that can help you find that sense of purpose, that are of the new butterfly species consciousness that we're talking about, that understand connection. Because I believe in every human heart, this is already encoded in there. If we learn how to be still and be quiet, we know that message. We know that we're all connected, and we're connected to the planet, we're connected to the cosmos. That voice is there, and that will help us to really find purpose, to guide purpose. These imaginal cells work a lot like stem cells, where they're here to serve a purpose, they're here for the highest good of the organism, and yet they don't know what they're to do yet. It's kind of like who we are, right? On the planet, we don't know what we're to do yet with purpose. So these imaginal cells then begin to find each other inside the chrysalis, and they begin to form. Now, the rest of the green goo is trying to annihilate that. Its immune system is saying, wait a minute, well, we were this. And yet the imaginal cells continue to find each other and then go, oh, we're already encoded. We know who we are. We know what we're to do. We've got this. And the imaginal cells then begin to rebuild the organelles into the organs, into the systems, into the structures, so that from a very unknown cell that doesn't know what it is, the encoding is innate and inside. and the potential's always there. And then they become the butterfly. So as a human species, we're going through that same thing, right? Like, what's going on the planet? Why is everything breaking down? I don't understand. And literally, we're in that imaginal cell stage of this new human. And there are those who are butterflies flying around who get it, who have purpose, who are in these different levels of consciousness, understanding. And then there are those who are still a caterpillar, crawling around, doing their thing. And caterpillars are very consumptive, like organs. They go around, they eat, they take care of themselves, they fatten up, they're doing their thing. So there's an important part of the entire process that I think is important for humanity to tune into that metaphor. It's a good one for purpose too, because you may not know your purpose, but if you can trust that encoding, that everything is right there for you, and it will all begin to make sense once you just say yes to that. For those who are in that state looking for purpose, I would encourage them to tune into what they resonate with. And maybe I should even explain resonance to people, because it's an important piece of this next stage in our evolution is when our hearts attune to someone else and there's an easy resonance. It's like, I like a simple metaphor here, and the true nature of resonance is if there are two guitars in the room and someone hits one of the strings on one, that note will resonate on the other guitar. It'll literally vibrate. And that's how powerful we're talking when we look at, where are my people? Where's my purpose? What am I to do? The universe sends us signs, and typically the most important thing that anyone can do is come into their heart space and trust this force of love that's here. There's an encoding in the force of love, and it drives us into purpose. It drives us into our part of being love in action. And so all of the guidance is within. There's a whole universe in here that's even our gut biome to our heart space, to our brain. But when we learn heart coherence and how to tune into the heart space, we will naturally become attuned to others around us that are in that same frequency, on the same love team, right? Like, we're going to find those to work with. We're going to find the messaging. We're going to find the encouragement. We're going to find the education. We're going to find the mentors. Tuning into the heart will guide us into purpose in a more realistic, grounded, functional way, so that this is love in action. It's not just the thought about it or the philosophy of it anymore. It's really moving us into action. And it might be as simple as, I'm to create a community garden in this place and give the food away. Or it might be something as big as, how do I connect with people around the world to get this eco project done, or regenerative agriculture. I mean, it could be huge and it could be very small, but on purpose is on purpose. And no matter what it is, if it's resonating with your heart, it might be multi-purpose, actually. You might have multi-purposes that are in a theme. And so ignite it, trust it, follow the impulse, and then watch for, learn about those words: resonance, coherence, attunement. It's like when we develop practices that bring us into our heart more, quiets the mind, and it brings us into that soul's purpose, that higher, divinely guided intelligence of the universe, pushing us and nudging us and moving us forward. Wow, being in my purpose has had an interesting effect on the people around me. And for many, many years, I kind of was in the closet with it. Like, oh, I'm supposed to go do this global work. How do I do it? Where do I, And then because those that I worked with were not in my